On the Tuesday morning in the fall of 1958, my grandmother Della laid 7 $1 bills flat on the oilcloth of her kitchen table on County Road 6 outside Tipton, Indiana, and that $7 was every cent her family would spend on food for the whole week. There were 9 of them under that roof, and not one of them went to bed hungry that week or any week. And the grocer at the Red and White on Main Street used to say Della could make a buffalo nickel beg for mercy. I am her granddaughter Pearl, and this is the $7 grocery week my grandmother survived in 1958, and I still run it at this same table today. $7 then is about $75 now, and I am going to show you exactly how she fed 9 people on it, because the supermarket has spent my whole life trying to make you believe it can't be done. She kept that money in a little brown pay envelope with the word Tuesday written across the front in pencil. And that envelope is the whole secret, so keep your eye on it, because we are going to come back to it at the end. I am going to show you the 4 rules of the $7 week, and stay with me until the 3rd one, because that is the rule that kept the Hutchins family fed through the winter, the canning plant closed, and laid half this county off. So pour yourself a cup of something hot and settle in, and hit that subscribe button now while you are thinking of it, because I leave the porch light on for the people who stay. My promise to you is the same one Della made to her own table. Spend less, waste nothing, and keep the kitchen wisdom the store would rather you forget. Now most folks hear a $7 grocery week, and they picture a sad table, thin soup and a heel of bread and everybody going without. That is not how it was at all. Della set a table with a roast on Sunday and a pie in the safe most weeks of the year, and the trick was never going without. The trick was that the $7 only ever bought what the land could not. The garden grew the vegetables, the hen house laid the eggs, the cellar held last summer's canning, and one milk cow named June stood in the back lot. The supermarket's whole business, then and now, is to sell you back the things your own yard and your own 2 hands used to give you for free. The $7 was not the grocery budget, it was the gap, and Della spent her life making that gap small. The first rule is this: you buy the week, not the meal. Della never once walked into the Red and White to figure out what was for supper that night. She sat at this table on Monday with a stub of pencil, and she planned 7 days at a stretch, backward from one piece of meat. She would buy a single stewing hen, a tough old layer past her good eggs, for about 60 cents the whole bird. That hen was Sunday's dinner roasted, and Monday it was hash with potatoes from the cellar, and Tuesday the picked bones and the back and the feet went into a pot of broth that carried soup straight through to Thursday. 1 60-cent hen, 4 days of dinner for 9. The woman never bought a thing for one night in her life. The supermarket builds its whole store to do the opposite to you, to walk you past 1,000 single suppers until you have a cart full of nights and an empty week behind it. Buy the week, and you stop paying the store to make your decisions for you. The second rule is the one that makes the first one possible. You anchor the whole week on one cheap thing that fills a plate, and you let it do the heavy lifting. For Della, that anchor was a 10-pound sack of navy beans at about $1.25, and a 25-pound sack of flour for under $2, and that was half her $7 right there, spent on purpose. Beans in a hot oven do not look like much money, but a pot of navy beans with a ham bone and an onion fed 9 people for the price of a postage stamp a head, and that flour was bread 6 days a week, and never a store loaf in the house. I still buy my beans by the sack, and bake my own bread every Wednesday, and I will tell you plainly, a loaf I pull out of my own oven costs me about 40 cents, and the soft bagged kind at the store is near $4 now. They charge you 10 times over for the one thing you can make in your sleep. Anchor your week on the cheap thing that fills a belly, and the rest of the budget has somewhere to stand. Now stay with me, because the third rule is the one that matters most, and it is the one that kept the Hutchins family alive the winter the canning plant shut its doors. In the winter of 1958, the plant out on the Elwood Road closed without a week's notice, and Harold Hutchins and 100 other men in this township came home with no pay and a cellar that was already thin. The third rule is that a kitchen never feeds one house, it feeds a road. Della and 3 other women on County Road 6 ran what they called the swap, and it was nothing more than this. Whatever your land made too much of, you carried to the woman who had none of it. Della had eggs she could not sell, and the Hutchins place had a hog but no flour, and the Pruitts had a whole row of late cabbage going soft in the field. So eggs went one way, and a side of pork came back, and the cabbage got made into a crock of kraut that fed 4 families till spring. Not $1 changed hands, and nobody called it charity, because next year it would run the other way. The supermarket would have you believe you are one shopper alone against the shelf. Della knew better. A road that feeds itself never goes hungry, and there is no checkout line on earth that can do for you what a neighbour with a hog can do. And the fourth rule is the one that made the $7 stretch into 8 and 9 without ever finding another dollar. You spend the last of your money where it breeds. When Della had a dime left at the bottom of the Tuesday envelope, she did not buy a treat with it. She bought a packet of seed or a cake of yeast, or once in a while another laying hen for 50 cents that would pay her back an egg a day for 2 years. $1 spent on finished food is gone the moment you swallow it. $1 spent on a thing that makes more food comes back to you every morning for years. That is the difference between a poor week and a poor life, and Della knew it down to the penny. I planted 3 packets of pole beans this spring for $1 and change, and I put up 40 pints off them, and that is the whole rule in one sentence. You buy the seed and not the can. The convenience aisle sells you the most expensive version of everything, the food that has already been grown and cooked and packed and forgotten. Spend your last dime on the thing that grows, and your week feeds your next week too. So those are the 4 rules, and I want you to see that they are really only one rule wearing 4 coats. Buy the week so nothing is wasted. Anchor it on the cheap thing that fills a plate. Feed the road so the road feeds you, and spend your last dime where it breeds. That is how $7 fed 9 people in 1958, and it is not a relic, and it is not a sad story. It is a working machine, and it still runs. Now let me bring you back to that brown envelope, the one with Tuesday written across it in pencil. I have one of my own in the drawer behind me, and every Monday I count my week's grocery money into it, and I close the flap, and when it is empty, the week is done. No card, no tap, no maybe. That envelope is the only honest budget I have ever kept, because it cannot lie to you, and it cannot be talked up at the register. I want you to picture the real stakes of this, not the cute ones. There is a woman watching me right now at her own kitchen table on a cheque that comes once a month and runs out before the month does. And she has been made to feel that going without is the only decent thing left to her. It is not. The food business took her grandmother's good sense, the garden and the swap and the sack of beans and the seed saved back, and it rented it all back to her by the package until she forgot it was ever hers for free. Della fed 9 through a closed plant and a hard winter, not because she had more than her neighbours, but because she wasted less and shared more than anyone on the road. And she did it out of a brown envelope with $7 in it. So this week, before you go to the store, sit down at your own table with a pencil and plan the whole 7 days backward from one cut of meat. Put your grocery money in an envelope and close the flap. Bake the bread, save the seed, and carry your extra down the road to somebody who is short. Watch what comes back to you by the end of 1 month, because it will, the way it always came back to Della. This is Granny Pearl, and I will leave the porch light on for you.